Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Believe in best.
Tonight on Our News, more relaxed restrictions on the way. How a Privy Council ruling can impact conveyances without subdivision approval. Shensia fans singing the blues, and a former health minister commends the Davis administration. Welcome to Our News, and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville predicting more restrictions will be loosened as the country records fewer COVID-19 cases. He added the Bahamas is moving closer to a sense of normalcy. Berthany McDermott reports.
One day after restrictions were relaxed, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville said further changes to COVID rules are on the way, particularly relating to travel.
There are some additional amendments that will come to the rules that will be able to give even more freedom and abilities for Bahamians to travel back into the country.
On Sunday, new health rules took effect, mandating that anyone traveling to the Bahamas or other islands from New Providence or Grand Bahama undergo a second COVID-19 antigen test 72 hours after arriving. Additionally, private indoor gatherings may take place at a residence or facility with 40 people in attendance, while outdoor private gatherings can have 100 people. All attendees must either be fully vaccinated or present a negative COVID test result and follow all COVID protocols. Churches or places of religious instructions are also allowed to conduct services, including weddings or funerals, following the protocols issued or approved by the ministry. On New Providence and Grand Bahama, attendance at services must be limited to 50% of the facility's capacity.
We've been watching the numbers, and over the last couple of weeks, we have predicted the trend, and we're seeing the numbers going down. But what is even more important is our hospital cases.
The Travel Health Visa program was used to collect information from travelers and alert them of the need to test and allow the government to keep track of which people follow through with the testing requirements. However, after taking office, the Davis administration scrapped the visa for all domestic travel and Bahamians traveling internationally. We asked the health minister, how will officials ensure secondary testing protocols are followed?
The Ministry of Immigration and other digital platforms are able to determine those individuals who have arrived. Notices will be given so that those individuals will be reminded of the need to have the test done. And once the test is done, we are putting in place additional parameters in order to capture, if not 90%, the entire amount of individuals who travel back into the country.
Concerns have mounted in recent days after an Auditor General's report found the previous administration violated the law and ignored certain best practices concerning the issuance of contracts for the travel health visa. But Darville said no decision has been made yet as to whether the visa will be completely scrapped.
Discussions are in the making of whether or not it is of value. Those discussions are not completed, but we must continue with where we are. And as far as the Ministry of Health is concerned, this particular digital platform is being used to its maximum potential.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
And property conveyed in subdivisions without the necessary planning approvals are null and void, according to a recent Privy Council ruling. The decision put some landowners in limbo, and the attorneys at the center of the case will think Parliament will have to intervene. Jared Higgs has the details.
The case involved the purchase of a piece of property in Exuma by American Malik Momin from February Point Resort Estates Limited. The property was in an unapproved subdivision, so the purchaser refused to accept the conveyance and demanded the nearly $1 million in purchase money be returned. The Privy Council ruled that Section 62 of the Planning and Subdivision Act 2010 makes it a criminal offense to convey land without the necessary approval, and the conveyance is therefore null and void.
We have no doubt that there are thousands of conveyances which are affected by this. And not only are the individual landowners affected, you also have banks who would have issued mortgages on the security of these conveyances, or in other words, the collateral that the banks are holding for these mortgages. So the domino effect that we anticipate is going to be rather significant.
It's an important case that saw attorney Christina Galanos, who specializes in litigating matters, travel to the Privy Council in London. Pinling, who the matter originated with, says the purpose of subdivision approval is to ensure that utilities like roads, lights, and water are installed in communities before people start building. He says in the worst scenarios, you could end up like Olympic gold medalist Ramon Miller, who went public with his challenges getting electricity and other utilities to his government-gifted property in Tropical Gardens.
He was granted a piece of land, which I think wasn't granted subdivision approval. And as a result of that, he's running his generator 24/7 because there's no infrastructure. And so that is the upshot of selling land in a subdivision without subdivision approval. The purchasers now are left to put in their own infrastructure.
The flip side of the coin is that some innocent purchasers will no doubt want their conveyance to be valid, especially if they have furthered their investment on the property. Pinling says government, which has tried to address the issue of conveying land without subdivision approval, may need to write another law.
As Parliament did to validate the invalid conveyances that were made before the coming into force of the new Act, Parliament also has the option to go back to Parliament and to again amend the law so as to validate these conveyances which fall into this category.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville says the ministry is not aware of a concert scheduled for March 19th at Carnival Grounds featuring Jamaican artist Shenseea. The dancehall artist posted a flyer on her social media page over the weekend captioned, "Bahamas, see you soon." Today, Dr. Darville suggested the concert won't get the ministry's approval.
As it stands right now, events of this proportion is not allowed under our rules, and this particular event, we are unaware of it, and we encourage every Bahamian who are planning an event to avoid embarrassment and avoid incurring additional expenses to notify the Ministry of Health to see if you can get approval.
Earlier this month, a concert featuring Jamaican artist Dexta Daps was canceled. Dr. Darville stressed the need for anyone looking to have events to notify the Ministry of Health.
You have individuals who are planning events, and we say again that if you're planning an event of this proportion, it's important for you to notify the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health will make a determination of whether or not we are at a point in the pandemic where we allow such events to happen, but this particular event we are unaware of.
In other news, the two men vying for the highest post being contested in the Free National Movement's upcoming convention, expressing confidence the party will come out stronger following the three-day event. Jasmine Brown reports.
Both candidates expressed confidence in their campaigns, explaining why they believe they are the right men for the job. Both the St. Barnabas MP and St. Anne's MP will be among the 101 candidates contesting positions within the party. Cartwright says the party is at a pivotal point.
I believe this is a very crucial time in the Free National Movement as we retool and make every effort to recapture the confidence of the Bahamian people and, frankly, the imagination of the Bahamian people as it relates to where we want to take the country.
White expressed similar sentiments, adding that the FNM needs to re-engage its base.
The party needs energy back in it. The party needs all of our members to come back on board. And then what we need to return to victory in 2026 will be change in policy reforms, mandates that our leader Michael C. Pintard will hopefully develop that will be well received by the general public, that are going to ignite not only the young voter base, but that huge FNM base that didn't turn out to the polls in 2021.
The convention, which begins on Wednesday and ends on Friday, will be held in the Grand Ballroom at Atlantis, Paradise Island, at a price tag of more than $200,000. Party officials say the hotel was the only one that could accommodate party members and allow for compliance with the COVID-19 health rules. In November, the FNM elected Marcos City MP Michael Pintard to lead the party after it suffered a stunning defeat in the September 2021 general election, which saw the Progressive Liberal Party win 32 of the 39 seats. 495 delegates are expected to attend this week's convention, during which all officers except the leader will be elected. Both Cartwright and White say they are confident they will be victorious at the polls. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Former Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands insisting today the Bahamas is moving in the right direction regarding the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. He commended the Davis administration for taking a measured approach to loosening COVID-19 health rules.
A calibration or recalibration of the rules makes a lot of sense. We still have major capacity issues in our healthcare system, in the private sector and public sector. And so I would applaud the government's decision to move deliberately, slowly. There's no reason to push this thing wide open at this point. Persons have gotten used to the idea of wearing their masks, and they should continue to do so.
New COVID rules came into effect on Sunday, loosening restrictions on social gatherings, restaurant dining, church services, funerals, and group exercise. While he says he generally supports the latest health rules, Dr. Sands says the reintroduction of secondary COVID testing for some domestic travel will likely fail. The new rules mandate that people traveling to the Bahamas or to other islands from either New Providence or Grand Bahama must undergo secondary testing on the second day after arriving.
Now, when you introduce this new provision that people have to, on day 2 now, get tested, I'd like to see it happen. I would be surprised if they capture 40% or 20% of the people that actually are moving back and forth. But, you know, they may have learned something or done something different. But I would be very surprised if, having gutted the travel visa program for domestic travel, whether they're able to achieve the end that they want.
A beautiful start to the work week. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the latest.
Yes, good evening, Christina, and a happy Monday evening, everybody. Our first look at weather tonight is being brought to you by Ports International, trusted medical supplies for a better quality of life. 74 degrees outside our studios with some intermittent clouds. We call them intermittent because they're kind of patchy out there, moving around. Still a very brisk east-northeasterly wind flow at around 13 miles per hour, and we are having some gusts out there as well. Your field slight temperature also in the low to mid 70s. Satellite view, quiet across our area, ridge of high pressure dominating, dry air mass in place, and we saw a lot of sunshine today. Temperatures got into the 80s. We will continue to enjoy this nice, brisk easterly wind, bringing in some very cool temperatures tonight. Temperatures should get down into the mid to upper 60s. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Thanks, Greg. Still to come, find out how many COVID cases have been recorded on campus since the return of face-to-face learning. And a mother of 6 is praying for a miracle. That's coming up when our news returns.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Since public school students returned to face-to-face learning, Education Director Marcellus Taylor says 2 COVID-19 cases were recorded on New Providence. He says the cases were both adults, but he refused to say if those positive cases were teachers.
We had 1 or 2 cases, but they were largely contained. We have in all of our schools in New Providence a nurse on staff who is able to give advice and guidance as to how these matters should be addressed. And we are confident that to date we haven't had any problems in terms of spread on the campus.
Education Minister Glenys Hanna-Martin says the number of cases is low considering the number of activities on school campuses.
2,000 children, and he took 2 cases amongst adults on the campus. And this is amazing, the way people are, and I pray it continues, the way they're managing the processes on the campus. These children had to get back in school. I'm glad they're there. I know all of us glad they're back in school and they're being stimulated again.
A mother of 6 needs your help paying for medical care for her baby girl who spent most of her life in and out of hospital. Baby Miracle was born with a hole in her heart and other complications. Sharika Johnson reports.
17-month-old Miracle Monroe was born with a hole in her heart and was diagnosed with trisomy 18, which causes other organ complications. Her mother, Lavonia Monroe, is in desperate need of assistance and is attempting to raise $50,000 for her daughter's medical care.
she needs the 24-hour care. That's why I do not work. So it's been very rough. Dealing with this situation is new to me. I have 6 kids and she's the baby. So this is me, stayed at home job, dealing with her.
Monroe found out after giving birth that Miracle was seriously ill. It was later discovered that her last child was born with an abnormal heartbeat, including other physical defects comprising of lungs, kidneys, stomach, and intestinal problems. Miracle was later diagnosed with trisomy, which is a chromosomal condition associated with severe intellectual disability and physical abnormalities.
She was hospitalized for 18 days from Christmas night. And she came out the following day and she was back in there the next day for 3 weeks. So she's always in and out, in and out.
Despite the prognosis, Miracle is making steady progress.
Babies that born with trisomy is not eligible to life. So I guess they was only looking for her to live for 6 months. She's now 17 months, going on 18 months.
Monroe has started a GoFundMe to help her baby through this challenging time. If you can assist, her CIBC account number is 2016746636. For our news, I'm Sharika Johnson.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our news returns, keeping up with the high cost of living and a big win for Coach Yo. We have the details when our news returns.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
This is our news. Welcome back. Research led by the University of the Bahamas is giving teeth to the cry of workers who say it is expensive to live and work in the Bahamas. Policy fellow at the University of the Bahamas Government and Public Policy Institute, Leslie Archer, says research on the living wage in the Bahamas gives workers a lot of support.
It's hardcore evidence that what they have been saying is right, because there has been a long discussion about Bahamians spend money carelessly trying to keep up with the Joneses. Is that true? And that's why they can't afford to live. And I'm not getting into the pattern of Bahamian spending. Yes, the savings rate does show some stuff, but this research shows that it is expensive to live here.
The living wage research has found that local worker concerns over cost of living expenses are valid. Those living expenses also include non-food items such as education, communication, and transportation.
The living wage doesn't just take in the cost of food and housing. It also considers education. It considers communication. So how much does your phone bill cost? It considers transportation. You know, the housing expenditure survey, if you don't own a car, you're considered within the poverty rate.
Labor Minister Keith Bell has indicated that he hopes to see the introduction of a livable wage by summer, a legislative change that will take cabinet approval. The study found the living wage for New Providence was $2,625. On Grand Bahama, it was $3,550.
Public policy can get involved in, for example, figuring out how to reduce the cost of living.
A huge win for Coach Yo and Ole Miss as they win number 20 of the season. Marcellus Hall has the details tonight in sports.
Thanks a lot, Christina. Welcome to our Sports on a Monday, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. The image you see behind me is very, very much needed because of the fact that the Ole Miss Lady Rebels, coached by one of our own, Grand Bahama native Yolette McPhee-McEwen, now has her team doing something they haven't done since the 2006 season, which is win 20 games in a regular season and on the verge of making the NCAA tournament. Coach Yo talking about just how great that team has been this week. Ole Miss Lady Rebels looking for magical win number 20 as they took on Vanderbilt, the Commodores, over the weekend. Game taking place yesterday, and it was Vandy who kind of pushed it down the stretch, but Ole Miss able to persevere. They go up and by 10, and they would hold on to win by 10, 57-47. They get their 20th win of the season. Head coach Yolette McPhee-McEwen, Grand Bahama native, saying how important it was for her team to come through.
This was the type of win that I would say we needed right now, just because we have not done well in adversity in the past. We have lost 6-point leads. We have folded to adversity. And today we pushed through. And that's what I was looking for. They knew what was at stake. We felt like if we got this win, it would really put us in good position for the NCAA tournament. And obviously that's our goal. So.
Meanwhile, on to some other news. Junior Baseball League of Nassau with a slew of games over the weekend. In the wake of the death of longtime Commissioner Jeff Aubrey, league officials saying Mr. Aubrey would have wanted the league to continue, and so they did. Getting some games in on Saturday and again on Sunday in all the various age categories, including ladies softball. All the youngsters happy to be back on the field and so are somewhere up above. Jeff Aubrey smiling down at the way things were going. And as we take a look at some track and field news, lots of track and field taking place over the weekend, as well as the Roadrunners Classic taking place at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. Athletes converging from all the various track clubs all onto the field and onto the track, competing in the various events, and for all intents and purposes, some CRIFTA qualifying standards also made during the course of that meet. Looks as if things are looking great heading into the CRIFTA Championships, which will come your way in April. And that's your look at sports for you here on this Monday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Christina.
Thanks, Marcellus. Still ahead, a new book inspires young readers to find their voice. Stay with us.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Welcome back to our news. Sunny skies all week. Greg is back with our extended forecast.
Thanks again, Christine. Welcome back, everybody, for our second look at weather. Weak frontal boundary moved through the area yesterday. It's now down towards the southeast Bahamas, what's left of the frontal boundary, actually. Some moisture associated with that still producing a couple of patchy clouds and some small showers across the area. Most of those showers will be light. Winds behind that, courtesy of a high pressure system, will continue to keep us rather brisk for the next couple of days and breezy. So we are going to enjoy some rather nice cool temperatures during the day, temperatures getting into the 80s, overnight low temperatures at night getting into the 60s. But that wind will continue to create some very hazardous boating and beaching conditions for our area through at least Thursday, Friday. Speaking of our boating forecast, for all areas tonight through tomorrow, small craft, use caution. Your winds will be northeast to east at 15 to 20 knots, and they will be gusting at times seas 4 to 7 feet over the ocean. Your high tide will be at 11:26 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Monday. High pressure will remain in charge of our weather, producing those breezy conditions. Exercise some caution. Back to you, Christina.
Thanks, Greg. A new children's book released today is seeking to empower Bahamian students to use their voices to make a difference. Bahamas Plastic Movement founder Crystal Ambrose is the author of Kai and Guy Discover the Gyre. She says the book was inspired by her journey with the Bahamas Plastic Movement.
This story just documents how my students and I petitioned the government to ban single-use plastics. So this story is representative of hope and action and empowering the voices of young Bahamian students to use their voices to make a difference and knowing that they do have the power to do so.
The book was illustrated by Bahamian artist Stevie Burrows. Ambrose says part of the proceeds will go toward the Bahamas Plastic Movement's educational programs.
It follows an ocean-loving Bahamian girl named Kai who's inspired to take action against plastic pollution after her best friend, a sea turtle named Gaia, gets caught up at sea in a trash gyre. And a trash gyre is just a place in the ocean that actually traps marine debris or plastic pollution.
Well, thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.